7 different color contrasts. Starting with contrast of hues. This is red, yellow, and blue. These are the primaries. They're always different from each other, as are all colors in terms of hue. Next, there's contrast of temperature. So we've got a red-orange neutral on the left, a blue on the right, a violet at the bottom that's more neutralized. So red-orange is kind of a warm color. Blue is a cool color. But these are all relative to each other. So that violet, which is normally thought of as a cool color, is warmer than the blue above it. Then there's simultaneous contrast. So this gray, it's the same across the board, but the gray on the left looks a little bit more green because it's surrounded by red, and the gray on the right looks a little more warm and maybe even red, orange tinted because it's surrounded by that green, that blue-green around it. Then there's complementary contrast with complementary colors. These are colors on opposite ends of the color wheel, and so these are just going to contrast with each other in strong, strong ways, in multiple ways, and we can play with this as artists. Value contrast is where you have a contrast between darks and lights. So you have all these mid-tones between. This is a monochromatic scale here, showing you how you can have different contrast based on how light something is against something that's dark, or how dark something is against something that's light. Contrast of saturation has to do with a color being desaturated, and so you get the same color just headed towards gray or neutral. Contrast of proportion has to do with how much of a color there is against another color. So here we've got this overwhelming amount of this blue-violet against these reds. And so there's just a contrast there between how much of one color we're seeing against a different color. Now you've got the lowdown, and you can talk about